Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in the East with no audience. The mic's muted. Debate scheduled months before debates normally happen. Practically every last thing about this first presidential debate of the 2024 presidential election season is unprecedented. Has never happened before. The first ever presidential debate between a current president and an ex-president will showcase a quite literal split-screen choice facing the American voter. A president with an agenda that commands broad support from voters, but a president who's dogged by concerns about his age and stamina versus a disgraced, convicted, 4 times indicted, liable for sexual abuse and financial fraud ex-president whose most recent appearances, from rallies to meetings with business leaders, reveal a candidate who is more erratic now than ever before, who appears to be in a race against himself to say and do the most incoherent and inexplicable things, whose rapid-fire spewing of lies and delusions presents a unique challenge to anyone trying to talk to him, let alone challenge him rhetorically on a stage, on TV. Trump will also be freed from a gag order that held him back from smearing witnesses and jurors in the case that resulted in his first ever criminal conviction. Hillary Clinton, the only other person other than President Joe Biden who has taken Trump on a debate stage, says this in a brand new op-ed in the New York Times, quote, "It is a waste of time to try to refute Trump's arguments like in a normal debate. It's nearly impossible to identify what his arguments even are. He starts with nonsense, then digresses into blather. This has only gotten worse in the years since we debated, yet expectations for him are so low that if he doesn't literally light himself on fire Thursday evening, some will say he was downright presidential." As Trump skips conventional debate prep, he and his allies are trying anything and everything to reset the expectation game, including lashing out at the debate moderators, floating a baseless conspiracy theory that Joe Biden is taking performance-enhancing drugs, and walking back from the Trump campaign's own rhetoric about Joe Biden's abilities on a debate stage. Here's some of that. Watch.
I really think he has to debate. He might as well get it over with. Probably should do it early so that he can, he's not going to get any better.
I assume he's going to be somebody that will be a worthy debater. Yeah, I would say. I think okay. I don't want to underestimate him.
The word is that I'm 2 points up. I don't know if that's good or bad. How are you 2 points up to Biden? He can't talk. He can't walk. Can't find his way off a stage, can't put 2 sentences together, although he has agreed to debate, so I don't know, maybe they know something. He's going to be so jacked up for those debates, you watch. He's sleeping now because they want to get him good and strong, so a little before debate time he gets a shot in the and they want to strengthen him up.
You'd have to be really steeped in right-wing nonsense to even know what any of those jabs pertain to. But there is a way to cut through some of the lies and conspiracy theories and noise. Once again, Hillary Clinton writing in the New York Times this, quote, "These ploys will fall flat if President Biden is as direct and forceful as he was when engaging Republican hecklers at the State of the Union address in March. The president also has the facts and the truth on his side. He led America's comeback from an historic health and economic crisis with more than 15 million jobs created so far, with incomes for working families rising and inflation slowing, investments in clean energy and advanced manufacturing soaring. He'll win if that story comes through. The prelude to an historic and unconventional presidential debate in America is where we begin today. Former Obama campaign manager and MSNBC political analyst David Plouffe is here. Political strategist and MSNBC senior political analyst Matt Dowd is here. And seasoned expert strategist, Democratic strategist Liz Smith rounds us out. Matt Dowd, I'm going to start with you because we did some of this together, preparing candidates who weren't the greatest debaters and playing this game. We should just call it a game. The expectations game is a game, not really even with the voters in mind, but with the media in mind, to help shape that first sentence or first line of a story the morning after the debate. Or I guess we're so old, it now happens as the debate's happening. What's your sense of what Joe Biden should really be focused on today, tomorrow, and heading into Thursday?
Well, you're right. The expectations game is a big part of this because, in my view, what's the most important part of this debate is what voters' expectations are of the candidate and the delta that exists between what their expectations are and what happens at the debate. That's actually the most important part of this in the course of this. I mean, if I were Joe Biden, I think Hillary Clinton's advice is right on. One part I don't agree with her. I don't think facts actually matter in this election, unfortunately. They don't matter to 44% of the population. That we know is already locked in, doesn't care. You can argue with them till you're blue in the face and it won't change their minds on something. But to me, the debate, Joe Biden needs to concentrate on three audiences. And the three audiences are, one, motivating, doing well and being aggressive and showing his energy in that way to motivate the Democratic base, because I think that he still has a point or two to gain by motivating the Democratic base through the debate. Two is if he is able to confront Donald Trump and put Donald Trump back on his heels, and I think the structure of the debate with the ability to mute the mic and no audience may do that, it may help demotivate his base. And then finally, the 8 to 10% of the country that is actually swingable in this election, it's all it is that's left in this country. And I think they're looking not so much for a list of policy things, though I think Joe Biden will be able to enunciate those. What they're looking for is they have questions about his age and his stamina. And if he can answer those questions in a debate in June, and I think the timing of this is actually really important, maybe more important than other debates that have happened in years past, because this is the only time they're going to see these two people on stage for the next 2 or 3 months. The next debate isn't until September. And so that's why I think, one, I think this debate's going to get the largest audience we've ever seen for a debate. But two, it can really set the tone for the next 2 or 3 months. And that is incredibly important, because if Donald Trump doesn't do well, there's not another avenue for him to fix that until September.
David Plouffe, what are your thoughts on this, I guess, day before the debate?
Well, I agree very much with Matthew. So I think in many respects, Biden's challenge here, the central challenge, is one of the easier ones we've had in recent memory, because it is simply, and this isn't pundits. I mean, voters have said in polls they're not sure he can get through 90 minutes. You know, they'd be surprised if he doesn't make mistakes. So if he can be forceful and strong and not cough up the football, that's going to go a long way to assuaging some of the real concerns voters have. And I would say something really important, Nicolle, and I agree with Matthew, this is going to be a huge audience, but it's not everybody that's going to vote. So if you're a presidential campaign, you've got to think about there's going to be people who are watching it directly. That's spin-proof. People are going to see it. There's going to be tens of millions of people going to vote in this election, particularly young, who are only going to see this through YouTube, through TikTok, through Instagram. So you have to make sure you have some good moments that you can then put money behind. Some of that will hopefully be organic. So that's right. And then I think the question for Trump is, I don't think he's capable of doing this. But if he were simply to say inflation's too high, the border's out of control, you were better off 4 years ago, here's what I want to do about it, you know, that would be also an easy task. I don't think he's capable of doing that. But listen, this is the most important 90 minutes in Joe Biden's political career. It's one, in my viewpoint, one of the most important 90 minutes in recent American political history. Because if Joe Biden doesn't do what he needs to do Thursday, and I very much think he can, he's a solid debater, I'm not even sure Trump will debate on September 10th. I certainly wouldn't expect he would. So I think this is what you have to seize. And listen, I've helped prepare Joe Biden for vice presidential debates. He works very hard. Even though he's a long and loquacious speaker, he's shown the ability to get things down to 2 or 3 minutes, and he connects with the American people. Even with his challenging poll numbers, Nicolle, he still has an edge on who cares about people like you. And I think as he talks about the economy, as he talks about healthcare, as he talks about democracy, if he does it through that very authentic lens, I think it can be a very good night for him.
Liz, I want to put you on the spot. I think you're three of the smartest operatives that have ever done this job, and you still are doing this job. You're helping the Biden campaign, and we want to hear about that. But I disagree. I think if you're talking about healthcare and jobs, I think you're having a different conversation. People that turn it on want to see if you're strong enough. That's it. And I spent the weekend talking to folks about campaigns. People will go with the crazy guy over the guy that they don't think is strong enough. And Trump, Trump's talking about getting a shot. Ass is the word that was bleeped. We're done bleeping Donald Trump. He accused Joe Biden of sleeping until he gets a shot in the ass. There's always a projection. I mean, it makes me wonder what they're shooting into Trump's ass. I mean, this is not a high-minded debate that meets the sort of intelligence of the kind of people that usually talk about debates. And I wonder how you how you deal with that. I mean, there should be wrestling people in the spin room. Trump is not going to be out there as a serious human being, let alone a serious candidate for the presidency.
Right. No, I agree with a lot of what you just said. And let's look at Donald Trump. This is not new, him accusing his opponent of doing drugs, using performance-enhancing drugs, getting a shot in the ass before a debate. He did this with Joe Biden in 2020. He did this with Hillary Clinton in 2016. It is a bizarre tick of his. We know that he's a creature of habit. He has a lot of nostalgia for the past. He was a big boxing fan, back in the day. And so I think some of this might be hearkening back to like the smack talk that you have before, big boxing matches. But putting that aside, I think to your point about what's more important, the substance or the style, I agree that style here is going to be really important for both of them. For Joe Biden, he's just got to really meet the low bar of showing up and, being present, somewhat vigorous. With Donald Trump, it's a little bit different, right? My concern as a Democrat is that a lot of people are going to expect the unhinged Donald Trump, the Donald Trump that you spoke about in your intro, to show up. And there's a lot of indications that it might not be the Donald Trump who shows up. This election cycle, he has a much more professional, disciplined team than he's had in the past. I mean, look, it's all relative. And we saw that when he's had big moments before, like the night he won the Iowa caucuses, a very restrained and, dare I say, boring Donald Trump showed up. So there is a chance that Donald Trump shows up on the debate stage on Thursday. And Joe Biden and Democrats need to be prepared for that and be prepared for someone who's not going to show up and be a raving lunatic. But what you can do, however, is get him on the record on the things that we know will be played in those little sound bites that Pluff was talking about, right? Because most people will not be watching the debate in full. They'll be seeing the clips on local media. They'll be seeing clips on TikTok. They'll be seeing clips that their friends are sharing on social media. And we know what the key issues are going to be, right? It's going to be getting Donald Trump, trapping him into saying some of the worst stuff he said about abortion rights, trapping him into saying some of the worst things he said about the election and January 6th, getting him to admit to the fact that he was the reason why Republicans tanked our best chance at bipartisan immigration reform in decades. And, yes, that is an issue of substance. And I do think it is really important that while we do focus on style, we do have to understand that Joe Biden has vulnerabilities with the electorate on two key issues. One is the economy. And to what David said, he's got to show he's going to be a fighter for the middle class. He's on